Hello and welcome to News Round, a recap of stories that made headlines during the week. Coming up, former Chief of Defense Staff General Irabor pulled out of the Nigerian Army at a ceremony in Abuja. And Vice President Kashim Shettima decorates new acting Controller General of Customs. New customs boss promises to enhance operations through innovation. EU Election Observation Mission presents final report on the conduct of the 2023 general elections, says exercise exposed enduring witnesses in the electoral process. Plus, death toll from South Africa rainstorm rises. I'll begin News Round with optimism expressed by the former Chief of Defense Staff, who said that he is leaving the Nigerian military stronger, more prepared to take on emerging security challenges in the country. The immediate past Chief of Defense Staff, General Irabor, stated this during his pulling out ceremony at the Mogadishu cantonment in Abuja. The former military chief is also confident that the current military chiefs will perform better.
It is the farewell ceremony for the immediate past Chief of Defense Staff, General Irabor. All the three arms of the military are here bearing their colors. This colorful parade, tagged Pulling Out, is a tradition to honor military chiefs who are retiring from service. Those in attendance are serving and retired military chiefs, permanent secretaries and heads of agencies of government, including the immediate past Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa. Before the pulling out ceremony begins, the former Chief of Defense Staff delivers his valedictory speech. He is optimistic about the future of the military and Nigeria in the hands of the new service chiefs. The outgoing military chief is also proud of his records, as he appeals to citizens not to engage in activities that can undermine the Nigerian military.
As a nation, we should avoid the deliberate or inadvertent inclination to denigrate the contributions of the armed forces to national security, unity and stability. To do so would be to effectively undermine the Nigerian state. I make bold to say that I'm leaving the armed forces of Nigeria today bigger, stronger, and more capable to deliver on its constitutional mandates and national security functions.
Done with his speech, General Irabor walks to the vehicle that had been made ready for the ceremonial pull-out parade. As the former Chief of Defense Staff formally takes a bow from active military service, the Defense Ministry appeals to his successor not to lower the bar.
I call on our new chiefs to actually follow the footpath of General Irabor. General Irabor loves Nigeria. General Irabor is a distinguished Nigerian. We shall truly miss him. He has laid a great foundation for the armed forces of Nigeria. General Irabor led in front in the fight against terrorism in this country. I call on the service chiefs and the entire armed forces to work very closely with the Ministry of Defense so that we can deliver on the mandate of President Ahmed Bola Tinubu towards ensuring territorial integrity and internal security of our country.
In the days and weeks ahead, Nigerians and indeed the world would be watching keenly to see how the new service chiefs would address present and emerging security challenges in a bid to keep Nigeria and our citizens safe.
Meanwhile, the acting Controller General of the Nigeria Customs Service is promising to leverage on the opportunities provided in the recently amended Act of the Services to curb smuggling as well as increase revenue for the nation. According to Mr. Adewale Adeniyi, some of the provisions of the Act promote innovation and the use of technology to enhance the operations of the service. He was speaking shortly after his assumption of office in Abuja. Meanwhile, the acting Customs Controller General has been decorated by the Vice President.
Acting Controller General of the Nigeria Customs Service arrives at the premises of the service in the company of the former head of the organization, retired Kano Hamid Ali. Retired Colonel Hamid Ali reviews the guard while the new helmsman watches.
Remain the guards into the gantry. Dismiss.
Done with the parade review, they proceed to the conference room of the service, where senior officers, friends and family members were on hand to receive them. Both the outgoing and the incoming controllers general make their speeches.
And I'm one of the most happiest person today that I'm handing over to somebody who knows the road and the obstacles we have gone through to be where we are today. So for him, it's just to continue from where we have stopped.
If a Controller General comes and finish off everything, there will be nothing left for incoming Controllers General to do. What is left for us now will be to build on the foundation, the solid foundation that you have created for us, and consolidate on some of those progress that we have recorded.
Now to the purpose of the gathering, the handover from the old to the new amidst chairs. Next is a meeting with the senior management of the service. The Acting Controller General lists priority areas.
In today's interconnected and technologically advanced world, we face emerging threats that require our utmost attention. E-commerce, global supply chains, and transitional criminal networks pose challenges to our role as custodians of trade facilitation and enforcement.
When we asked about the specifics of how he will tackle smuggling challenges, this is what he said.
There would be a lot of consultations. There will be a lot of meetings. We need to have a shared understanding on all these issues. But what I have said initially is that I would be emphasizing a lot of consultations with stakeholders. We are going to engage very, very critically with our stakeholders, and we're going to use innovative technologies to drive everything we are going to do.
Earlier in the day, the Acting Controller General of the Nigeria Customs Service was at the Presidential Villa, where he was decorated by the Vice President. The Acting Customs boss plans to keep Nigerians abreast of their activities in the service in the days ahead. This is just as he promises to remain impartial in the discharge of his duties.
And talking about the reforms being undertaken by the Tinubu administration, the World Bank has thrown its weight behind the fuel subsidy removal and the exchange rate unification. According to the country director of the World Bank, Dr. Shubham Chaudhary, the policy, though painful, remains key to rebuilding the nation's economy. He was speaking at an event organized by the World Bank to assess the nation's economy in the last 6 months.
Effort on the part of the central bank.
It's that time again when representatives of development finance institutions, government officials and economists converge to assess the nation's economy. The event, tagged the Nigeria's Development Update, throws a searchlight on the economy and policy recommendations for job creation, poverty reduction and economic growth over a 6-month period. This time, the World Bank's attention is specifically on the petroleum subsidy removal and the exchange rate unification.
In the last month, what we've seen are really, from our perspective, the beginnings of that move through these bold decisions that have been taken. I know they've been controversial, but the way I would put it, I like to use metaphors. It's a bit like when you have, internal hemorrhaging. And it's getting to the point where the patient is in critical condition, you have to do emergency surgery. It may be painful, it will come as a shock, but that emergency surgery is needed and it takes courage.
This is then followed by an analysis of how the recent policies of the government will impact Nigerians.
Inflation will increase this year, but then as of next year, we'll see inflation beginning to decrease as a result of the impact of this, meaning less recourse to central bank finance, slower growth of the money supply, better growth dynamics.
Done with the speeches, the conversations continue in a plenary discussion. While members of the private sector seek a well-regulated exchange rates regime that will favor investors, government officials speak on plans to ameliorate the sufferings experienced by Nigerians as a result of the removal of fuel subsidy.
What we are looking for is price stability. What we are looking for is an ability for investors to bring in their money and have a fair view as to what it's going to take for them to make a return in dollar terms, okay, and remit their money.
We are all sure that with the right measures will be a temporary spike in inflation, and that involves using the World Bank's financial muscle to have a loan from the World Bank, which will be used as direct cash transfers for the poorest. That has long been mooted, and it's a policy decision or a policy recommendation that has pretty much been accepted.
These are definitely interesting times in the nation's economy, and the consensus here is that buffers be created to cushion the impact of the recent policies on Nigerians.
And when News Now returns, President returns to the country after his trips to France and the United Kingdom. That's a moment to stay with us. Welcome back. Well, Nigeria's 2023 general elections exposed enduring weaknesses and signaled the need for further legal and operational reforms to enhance transparency, inclusiveness, and accountability. As a conclusion reached by the European Union as it presented its final report on the 2023 elections in Abuja, the nation's capital, where the Electoral Act 2022 was also put under scrutiny. The EU Election Observer Mission identified 6 areas that the country must make amends to further improve the electoral process moving forward.
I know it's a lot of...
It is a gathering of faces not new within Nigeria's political monitoring space, comprising civil society groups, observer groups, the electoral umpire, and diplomats from European countries. They're here to witness the European Union present its final report on the 2023 general elections.
The election exposed enduring systemic weaknesses and therefore signal a need for further legal and operational reforms to enhance transparency, inclusiveness, and accountability. The Electoral Act 2022, which had its first test in a general election in 2023, and other legal instruments evidenced gaps in terms of transparency, accountability, and inclusivity, and left room for uncertain implementation.
He listed the areas to include the ambiguities in the law, establishment of a publicly accountable process for selection of recs and national commissioners by INEC, ensuring real-time publication of and access to election results, the protection for media practitioners, the discrimination against women in elective and appointed positions, as well as impunity regarding electoral offences. He, however, outlined some positives.
The elections of March represented a significant improvement in terms of the use of the technology. There are 93.5 million people registered to vote in this election, which betokens a massive appetite for democracy.
The electoral umpire INEC, represented by its National Commissioner and Chairman of the Information and Voter Education Committee, Festus Okoye, says legislation will be needed to effect the changes.
As far as the Commission is concerned, there were so many positives to this election. There were also significant challenges and problems with the election. We are going to address those challenges and those problems. And if we receive most of the reports from the domestic and international observers, we will harmonize them, take out the actionable ones that have administrative flavor. We will implement them. If there are still challenges with the Electoral Act 2022 and the constitutional framework, we will also join Nigerians and go before the National Assembly to get both the constitutional and legal framework amended.
Elections may have come and gone, but recommendations like these, if implemented, are expected to ensure that the electoral process is strengthened so that there are lesser cases at the election petition tribunals. Victor Matthias, Channels Television News.
And the president has returned to the country from London after his official trip to France for the Global Financial Pact Summit and later a visit to London for a private visit. President Bola Tinubu landed at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport aboard a Nigerian Air Force plane on Tuesday and was received by the Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, and the Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila, and the Acting Inspector General of Police, the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, and other government officials. After a brief ceremony involving the personnel of the Nigerian Army who mounted a guard of honor, President Tinubu left the airport amid cheers from a large crowd of supporters who were at the airport to welcome him. And there's a stern message from President Bola Tinubu is saying the country needs to take steps to stop the bleeding of its finances. President Tinubu made this comment at the Lagos House in Marina, where it was hosted by the state governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, as he marks his first month in office. He says speedy action must be taken to rebuild the country's resources for the benefit of Nigerians. And various reactions have continued to trail the demolition of structures by the new administration in Kano. Some residents of the ancient city gathered to condemn the action of the Governor Abba Kabir-led government, which is alleging that the properties were illegally sold by the previous administration. The protest follows an earlier demonstration by some residents in support of the decision by the government. Meanwhile, the Kano state government has announced the formation of a committee of inquiry to receive complaints before proceeding with further demolitions.
The demolition exercise undertaken by the Kano state government has been drawing actions from various quarters. The latest is this peaceful protest by some concerned youth. Taken to the streets with placards and banners, the protesters urged the state government to halt the ongoing demolition exercise.
This demolition has cost our people a lot. Many have lost their jobs and businesses are seriously affected.
The demolition is not good for the development of Kano State. What do they want our children to do? Since they have demolished their shops, this has to stop.
Earlier, another group had come, taken to the street in support of the actions of the governor. According to them, this is what is needed to clean up the metropolis.
I would like to congratulate all our commissioners.
Incidentally, Governor Abba Kabir chose to inaugurate his cabinet today. One of the first he did after that is to set up a committee of inquiry to listen to complaints before any further actions taken.
We have set up a committee of inquiry. All we are waiting for is for the swearing in of the commissioners, and if it is done, so we are expecting them to start listening to the complainants. They will advise us on how best to handle the matter.
No time to delay. The committee is set to commence its work immediately.
The committee cannot take off without the Executive Council. So it just has like a draft. So now that the Executive Council is formed, so maybe it will be brought to the Executive Council for the deliberation, necessary correction and so on, or let's say improvement, then it will take the course of action.
The announcement of the committee of inquiry has brought a sense of relief to the owners of the buildings marked for demolition. Sadiq Ilyasu, Channels Television News.
And now I'll go back to the President's comment on the state of finances for the nation. To take a listen.
President Bola Tinubu arrives at Lagos House Marina from Ogun State. He was received by the host governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, Vice President Kashim Shettima, All Progressives Congress National Chairman Abdullahi Adamu, among others. A roll call of dignitaries, including state governors from the Southwest, Southeast, South-South, Northeast, North Central, industry players and other political leaders were present for the first gathering in Lagos with the president. President Tinubu was quick to warn that the nation's financial system had been bleeding and that needs to stop.
We need to take the steps to stop the bleeding of our finances through speedy action. From there, we must re-engineer the effectiveness of control and management of our resources in order to meet the obligation owed to Nigerians by politicians.
However, the president assures the people that he will rebuild the finance system.
We will work together. Open door policy that will bring Nigeria from brinks back to a resilient economy. And I want us to be partners so that we can rescue our country and make it whole again.
Governor Sanwo-Olu, who is hosting and celebrating the president's 1 month in office, says other governors and he stand in solidarity with President Bola Tinubu to build a new Nigeria.
We pledge our unwavering support and commitment to working hand in hand with your government to ensure that we achieve our collective aspiration. Mr. President, Lagos stands right behind you. We're confident that under your stewardship and your leadership, Nigeria will reach unprecedented heights.
The National Assembly, Nigeria Governors Forum, and other stakeholders say they are also ready to work with the presidency.
The Nigerian Governors Forum is committed to working with a known federalist who has used the instrumentality of the law several times to get things done the way it should be done in a federal system.
We are here across party lines to assure you that you earn well. You earn well. And Nigerians are proud of you, and the National Assembly is behind you 100%, and we will do everything possible, everything legislatively possible, to ensure that you have a very smooth tenure, and at the end, this country will never forget you.
The father, 3 sons that set Lagos right.
4 generations of Lagos governors had their moments of reunification, including former Governor Akinwumi Ambode, who has not been seen at public gatherings such as this for a while. Many will now be expecting the president set about the task of financial system rebuilding. With the promise of support from all political leaders at this event, the clock is ticking.
And finally, on News Round, the incident in South Africa's KwaZulu-Natal province has now claimed 7 lives. There are fears that the death toll will rise. The body of a woman in her 20s and a teenage girl, the latest to be retrieved from a canal in the city of Durban. Provincial authorities say at least 70 homes have been destroyed and more than 150 people left homeless. Many areas in the southeastern parts of the province are recovering from the heavy rains and storms that hit early in the week. Disaster management teams are still assessing the impact of the floods. And that's it on News Round for the week. Thank you for watching. I'm Ladi Williams. Bye for now.